Thank you so much. Big round of applause.
Our warmest greeting to President Emeritus, keynote speaker, distinguished guests, respected lecturers, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning and welcome to the Institute of Diplomacy and International Studies Academic Lecture on the topic of Iran after 1979 Islamic Revolution, Socio-Political Developments here at Rangsit University.
On behalf of Rangsit University and the Institute of Diplomacy and International Studies, we would like to recognize and extend our warmest welcome to Mr.Morteza Soltani from the Embassy of Islamic Republic of Iran to Thailand.
And it is our privilege to be MCs for this special occasion. I'm Nilin Thor.
And I am Sai La Ro.
President Emeritus, distinguished guests, esteemed faculty members, ladies and gentlemen. The Institute of Diplomacy and International Studies Academic Lecture will be commenced with the welcome remarks by the Dean of the Institute of Diplomacy and International Studies. Kindly be invited to the podium, His Excellency Dr. Sompong Sangwanban.
Good morning. President Emeritus and the founder of Rangsit University, Vice Presidents, Lectors, Deans, distinguished guests, students, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to address an opening remarks on behalf of the Institute of Diplomacy and International Studies, Rangsit University, on the occasion of a special lecture event this morning to be offered by Mr. Morteza Soltani, an political and cultural expert of the Embassy of the Islamic Republic of Iran to Thailand. As a PhD candidate in Regional Studies at the University of Tehran, he is going to tell us about several significant incidents and situations that had occurred in Iran since 1979. Iran, also known as Persia, has been an important country in West Asia and playing major role in the Middle East as well as the whole Asian continent. Culturally, particularly, Iran is home of an oldest civilizations in the world. Economically, Iran was playing a major role in international trade, especially during the first century AD. Politically, apart from the extensive role in the West Asia and the Middle East, regional, in the history, Iran used to play an important role in world politics during the Second World War, and now, strategically speaking, Iran is viewed as a major actor internationally. As far as the relationship between Thailand and Iran are concerned, they have had a long history, in particular at people-to-people contact. A long history dating back to 1,000 years, not only 600 or 700 years during Sukhothai era or Ayutthaya era, but probably back to Suvarnabhumi period that was 2,500 years ago. So, without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Morteza Soltani to share with us Iran after 1979, Islamic Revolution, socio-political developments. Please, Mr.
President Emeritus, distinguished guests, esteemed faculty members, ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today for a special occasion. An academic lecture of great significance. Our focus turns to the socio-political landscape of Iran after the 1979 Islamic revolutions. To guide us through this enlightening exploration, we have the privilege of welcoming the political and cultural expert from the Embassy of the Islamic Republic of Iran to Thailand.
As we embark on this intellectual journey, our objectives are clear. We seek to foster a deeper understanding for the social, political developments that have shaped Iran's post-revolution journey. Through Mr. Morteza Soltani expertise, we aim to unravel the complexities, providing you with valuable insights into the societal fabrics and political evolutions of these nations. We anticipate that this event will not only broaden our knowledge, but also spark conversations that contribute to a richer comprehension of Iran's post-revolution era.
So without further ado, we are very honored to invite the political and cultural expert from the Embassy of the Islamic Republic of Iran to Thailand up onto the stage. Please welcome Mr. Morteza Soltani.
Sawadee everyone. Sabay Dimay. In Iran, we say salam. Okay. I'm Soltani, the political and cultural expert of Iran's embassy in Bangkok, and a PhD candidate in regional studies at the University of Tehran, which is the top-ranking Iranian university in Iran. Okay. I would like to thank the university officials, especially Dr. Sampung, the Dean of the Institute of Diplomacy and International Studies, for giving me this opportunity to talk about socio-political developments in Iran after the important 1979 Islamic Revolution. My lecture will take about 75 minutes. You can ask me your question after the lecture or send me an email if you want to know more about Iran. You can also refer to the embassy's Facebook page, Iran in TH, if you want to know more about Iran, news and videos about my country. Okay, let's introduce Iran, take a look at it at a glance. The location where Iran is located in West Asia. Some Westerners call it the Middle East. Why? Because if you look at the world map from their point of view, we have the Far East, containing countries like Thailand, East Asia. The Middle East, including countries like Iran, Saudi Arabia, and those Arab countries in the region, and also the Near East, like Lebanon, Syria. So when we call it the Middle East, we are looking at the world map from the Westerners' point of view. I think it's better to take it as a geographical location and call it West Asia. The capital city is Tehran, with a population of about or over 10 million people. The area of the country is over 1.6 million square kilometers. And to just give you a hint, and with due respect, it's 3 times bigger than Thailand. The population is about 85 million people. And also, Iran hosts one of the biggest population of refugees in the world. Most of them are Afghans. I mean, Afghanistan is a neighbor of Iran, and especially after the takeover of Taliban, many Afghans came to Iran. Unofficial estimates say that over 5 million Afghan people are living in Iran now. The official name, as you know, is the Islamic Republic of Iran, and it is due to the revolution, Islamic Revolution. After that time, the official name was changed to this. Official language is Persian, and some educated people can also speak in English. The government type in Iran is the Islamic Republic. The currency is called Riyal, and most of the population in Iran are Muslims. And you know that Islam is divided into 2 main sects, Shia, Sunni. Most of Iranians are Shia people. Shias are mostly in Iran, Iraq, Lebanon. But I can say that most of the Muslims are Sunni people in the world. About 2 billion Muslims we have. And we have 31 provinces in the country. Okay. It's very okay, let's. I have put some videos in my presentation. Let's watch one of them, if I can play it. Please raise the volume.
Capitulation in 1965 by the Iran.
Put it on full screen, please.
Iranian government.
This is a full screen.
Okay. Sound is okay? How can I play it?
Which granted judicial immunity to the Americans who live in Iran, well revealed the extreme servility and dependence of Iran on the U.S., as well as its lack of independence. Even if an American dog attacked, these titles revealed the total dependence of the Shah on the USA, and they have reduced Iran to a pawn for reaching the purposes of the global Zionism. Approval of capitulation in 1965 by the Iranian government, which granted judicial immunity to the Americans who lived in Iran, well revealed the extreme servility and dependence of Iran on the U.S., as well as its lack of independence. Even if an American dog attacked and killed an Iranian person, the Iranians had no right to protest. The political system of Iran before the Islamic Revolution was hereditarily a monarchy, and the people of Iran had no role to play in appointing the monarch. Dependence on foreigners was one of the features of Reza Shah and his son Mohammad Reza Shah's government. On the matter of dependence of Reza Shah on the UK, suffice it to say what Churchill and Roosevelt confessed during the conference in Tehran was, "We brought him, we took him." They had left no dignity for Iran and the Iranians. They had distorted every aspect of the country. 1979, thanks to the leadership of an endeavoring scholar, namely Imam Khomeini, the dictator or hireling of the US was forced to escape.
این انقلاب در دنیای اسلام و دنیای عرب امیدها رو زنده کرد. دنیای عرب و دنیای اسلام به طور کلی در اون وقتی که انقلاب ما پیروز شد در یک حال رکود و سکوت و نومیدی به سر می‌برد.
Okay, if we want to talk about the Islamic Revolution and its leader, as you know, Imam Khomeini was the leader and the founder of Islamic Republic. About the causes, the reasons behind this revolution, we can refer to discontent with the ruling system and the king, which was called Shah in Iran. And his dependence on the West, especially the US. There was social injustice in the society, and it was another reason for revolution. Also, religious motives. The king didn't pay much attention to Iranians' Islamic beliefs. Another reason was the exile of Imam Khomeini for 14 years in Turkey, Iraq, and France. The revolution was victorious on February the 11th, 1979, and it is the National Day of Iran, the day of the victory of the revolution.
Today's episode, we're going to go through some of the important events that took place before the
I'm not sure about the quality of sound. Is it okay to you? Can you hear it?
1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran. It's history recap time. Number 1, the extraterritoriality law. Now, what is that, you may ask? Well, basically, it's an extraterritorial violations of human rights. The Pahlavi regime approved a law in the parliament which granted immunity to American personnel so they could not be prosecuted by Iranian courts, the judiciary, and security organizations. This is called extraterritoriality. When foreigners are allowed to enter a country and do whatever they like, and the courts and police forces of that country are unable to do anything to stop foreigners meddling in its affairs. It shows that the country has an extreme form of weakness and dependence. And unfortunately, we still got a lot of countries living under this law till this day. Number 2, the Qiyam of the people of Qom. In January 1978, the people of Qom rose up in a public demonstration against the Pahlavi regime and its policies. Why? Well, because the Pahlavi regime published an article in a newspaper called Ittila'at, one of the largest publications in circulation in Iran. The article insulted Ayatollah Khomeini while he was in exile. I mean, you can't just insult an honorable leader and get away with it. So then the Shah's security forces cracked down on the peaceful protesters and forcibly suppressed the Iranian people who supported Imam Khomeini. This caused a huge wave of protests in major cities like Tabriz, Shiraz, Tehran, and Mashhad, and this incident echoed throughout Iran and quickly became a standing point for the Islamic Revolution. Number 3, the den of espionage. So, a group of university students following the Islamic Revolution took over the American embassy in Tehran and named it the Den of Espionage. Why did they name it so? Well, because the personnel in the American embassy had a huge spy network that was spying on Iranians and even in the broader Western Asian region. Now, the American media constantly insists that the activities of the US embassy in Iran were normal. Yeah, right. Countless documents were discovered and publicly disclosed that showed that this was no simple embassy. They described the Iranian uni students as wild, irrational, and in violation of international laws. Really? Who was violating international laws? Well, the first thing to consider is to respect the laws of any host country. So even though an embassy has immunity, it doesn't mean that it can violate the laws of the host country. You can't just violate laws and get away with it. Second point is the embassies should not interfere in a country's internal affairs. The American personnel at the U.S. Embassy had been violating Iran's laws and interfering in the country's internal affairs, and there's documentation to prove it. Number 4, the Air Force pledged allegiance. On the 8th of February 1979, the Air Force met Imam Khomeini and pledged allegiance to him. Now, the Air Force is one of the strongest arms in any country's military, so it became one of the strongest supports for the new emerging revolution. The Air Force was one of the closest forces to the power center of the Pahlavi regime, so they were struck a blow from where they never expected. Amazing. Number 5, on January 16, Shah and his family fled Iran for Egypt, ostensibly for vacation. As he departed, he kind of gave Iran over to the Prime Minister Bakhtiar, saying, "I give Iran into your care, yours and God's." Bakhtiar then announced a countrywide curfew and martial law, and that didn't go down pretty well. People came out united against the Shah regime, demanding for an Islamic society, and rose up in a national revolution against westernizing their country. And that leads us into the present with a beautiful Islamic nation stronger than ever before, the Islamic Republic of Iran. Not Iran. It's the I is like an E, so Iran.
Okay, after the revolution, we had the Islamic Republic referendum. Less than 2 months after the victory, a referendum on establishing an Islamic Republic was held in Iran in March 1979. There was a huge voter turnout nationwide. Official results show that over 98% of the eligible citizens approved the Islamic Republic. Following this victory, a new constitution for an Islamic government was created and ratified by another referendum in December 1979. Okay, another important event after the revolution was the Iraqi imposed war against Iran, which is called the Sacred Defense in Iran. It began with the Iraqi invasion of Iran and lasted for 8 years. It followed a long-running history of territorial border disputes between the two states. And Iraq also wished to replace Iran as the power player in the Persian Gulf. While the Iraqi leadership had hoped to take advantage of Iran's post-revolutionary chaos and expected a decisive victory, its army faced a strong defense by Iranian people and military forces. Iranians gradually began to gain momentum against the Iraqis and regained all lost territory. Liberation of Khorramshahr, I want to talk about this. It was the Iranian recapture of the border city of Khorramshahr in 1982 during the Iran-Iraq war. The city had been captured by the Iraqis in 1980, and it is perceived as a turning point and like a miracle in the war. The liberation of the city is annually celebrated in Iran on May 24. It was the largest, the most important city that was captured by Iraqis, and later, less than 2 years later, was recaptured by Iran.
مسئله خرمشهر از دور فقط یک حادثه تاریخی است، ولی از نزدیک این قضیه شبیه یک معجزه بزرگ. یک طرف عراق بود با حمایت آمریکا، حمایت شوروی، حمایت ناتو، حمایت ورشو. یک طرف نظام جمهوری اسلامی، امکانات مالی کشور بسیار ضعیف، نیروهای مسلح نامنسجم، وسایل نظامی بعضی کهنه و فرسوده، بعضی منتظر قطعی که برون نمی‌بودن. در قدم اول یک پیشرفت‌هایی پیدا کرد رژیم عراق. اومدن تا 13-14 کیلومتری اهواز هم رسیدن. نیروهای مردمی، جوانهای مؤمن، مرد و زن انقلابی وارد میدان شدند. در نزدیکی اهواز هم زمینگیر شدند. هیچ کس در دنیا باور نمی‌کرد نیروهای مسلح ما بتوانند خرمشهر را پس بگیرند. خرمشهر رفته بود. وقتی که نیروهای مسلح ما در بیت المقدس با تکیه به خود و نیروی خود و اعتماد به خدای متعال حرکتشون رو شروع کردن، هیچ کس در دنیا باور نمی‌کرد که خرمشهر رو بتوانند اینها آزاد کنند، اما توانستند. وقتی ما اعلام کردیم که خرمشهر را پس گرفتیم، تا 1-2 روز خبرگزاری‌های دنیا حاضر نبودند این خبر را پخش کنند.
In June 1987, Iraq dropped mustard gas bombs on the city of Sardasht, west of Iran. In 2 separate bombings, the attack killed 110 people and injured 8,000. Iraq frequently used chemical weapons against Iranian civilians and soldiers, and even Iraqi Kurds during the war. I mean, Saddam used chemical weapons against its own people. Many years later, some of the residents are still experiencing severe illnesses from the attacks, chemical attacks. The Iranian movie Walnut Tree was inspired by the event.
در سال 66 سردشت رو بمباران کردن، مال همین روزاست دیگه. شوخیه یک شهر را بمباران شیمیایی بکنن، هزاران نفر را در یک شهر، بچه، بزرگ، پیر، جوان، زن، مرد نابود کنن و دنیا سقوط کنه. غربی ها بودن.
US Navy shot down an Iranian passenger plane by 2 missiles in 1988. The missiles hit the aircraft while it was flying its usual route over Iran's territorial waters in the Persian Gulf. All 290 passengers were killed. The attack occurred during the Iran-Iraq War, and some analysts believe it was a sign of US indirect intervention in the war to put pressure on Iran. The war ended in 1988 after 8 years. UN Security Council Resolution 598 called for ceasefire between Iran and Iraq, the exchange of prisoners, and the return of both sides to international borders. It became effective in August 1988, ending all combat operations between the two countries. In 1991, the UN Secretary General officially blamed Iraq for starting the war 11 years earlier. There are different statistics on the casualties of the war. According to some officials, over 200,000 Iranians and 1 million Iraqis lost their lives, and hundreds of thousands were injured. Many Iranians are still suffering from the effects of chemical weapons used by Saddam in the war. Saddam Hussein, the Iraqi dictator. One of the most important terrorist groups originated in Iran is Mujahedin Khalq Organization, MKO. They have been involved in killing about 17,000 Iranians. They even helped Iraq during the war, helped their own country's enemy during the war. In July 1988, a few days after Iran accepted ceasefire, 7,000 militants from the group backed by Iraq invaded the western Iranian city of Kermanshah. Iranian armed forces stood against the terrorist group and defeated it severely. Operation Mersad lasted only a few days. Imam Khomeini, the founder of the Islamic Republic, died in 1989 at the age of 89 after suffering a heart attack. Imam Khomeini spent about 14 years in exile for his opposition to the Shah. He was a charismatic leader. Over 10 million people, or 1/6 of Iran's population, attended his funeral. It is registered in Guinness Book of World Records as the largest percentage of population to attend a funeral. He has been described as the face of Shia Islam in Western culture. Imam Khomeini was Time magazine's Man of the Year in 1979 for his international influence and his main role in victory of the revolution. He was also the Time magazine's list of most important people of the 20th century. Iran's Assembly of Experts elected Ayatollah Khamenei as the next leader 1 day after Imam's death. The pronunciation of the names of the two leaders are somehow similar. Imam Khomeini, Ayatollah Khamenei. He has been the leader and commander-in-chief of the armed forces until now. Ayatollah Khamenei had previously served as the president of Iran from 1981 to 1989. He was a major figure of the revolution and was the target of an attempted assassination in 1981 that paralyzed his right arm. So he has shaken hands with his left hand since the unsuccessful assassination. Okay, let's turn to the presidency of Mr. Hashemi. Hashemi was one of the most influential figures of the Islamic Republic before and after the revolution, and always had high positions. He became president after winning the 1989 election and served 2 terms which lasted 8 years. His administration, titled the Construction Administration, tried to reconstruct the country and its economy following the war. A large number of dams, factories, industrial workshops were set up, and many universities were built in small and large cities. These actions and creation of economic and cultural infrastructure left positive consequences in the political, economic, and cultural fields of the country. The next president, Mr. Khatami, I think that some of you may have heard his name. He won the election in 1997 and with almost 70% of the vote. His administration is called the Reform Administration, and he's known as the leader of Iran's reformists. During his 2 terms, he advocated freedom of expression, tolerance, civil society, constructive diplomatic relations with other states, and an economic policy that supported a free market and foreign investment. In addition to expanding relations with the region and Asia, he could also improve ties with the West. Khatami was the first Iranian president who visited France, Germany, Italy, and Austria at the invitation of the European governments. Khatami introduced the idea of dialogue among civilizations as a response to Samuel Huntington's theory of clash of civilizations. The year 2001 was announced as the United Nations Year of Dialogue Among Civilizations on his suggestions. Next slide is about earthquake in the city of Bam. An earthquake with a magnitude of 6.6 struck the city of Bam in southeastern Iran in 2003. It was one of the most destructive earthquakes in the history of Iran. The death toll was about 34,000. Before the earthquake, Bam had a population of about 100,000 people. Now let's turn to one of the most important challenges of the Islamic Republic since the beginning of its establishment. Despite having vast oil and gas resources, Iran has sought to find alternative sources of energy, especially atomic energy, since the middle of the last century. Prior to the 1979 Islamic Revolution, Western powers, including the US, supported efforts in this regard and signed a number of contracts with Tehran to help the Shah achieve his dreams. The country was planned to build a network of 23 nuclear power plants until the middle of the 1990s. The Islamic Revolution, however, changed the scene. So, Western countries supported the Shah to achieve nuclear energy, but after the revolution, they stopped backing the Islamic Republic to do the same. Foreign contractors left Iran, and the country's nuclear projects faced a long break, especially due to the 8-year war. Following the war, Iran continued its nuclear activities more seriously and tried to reconstruct the Bushehr nuclear power plant, damaged during the Iraqi invasion. The turn of the century, the beginning of the new century heralded the beginning of a new long-lasting crisis for Iran. The Anti-Iran Mujahideen Khalq Organization, MKO, I told about it, published images of Iranian nuclear facilities in 2002, claiming that Tehran has undeclared nuclear activities in these sites. The report resulted in the International Atomic Energy Agency seeking access to the facilities. So the crisis began from the beginning of 21st century. From that time on, lengthy negotiations began between Iran and the world powers, which lasted for more than a decade. Mr. Ahmadinejad, during the two-term presidency of him, the nuclear issue was the most important challenge for the government. Iran's main nuclear strategy was the rejection of enrichment, suspension, and ending voluntary cooperation with the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency. Several anti-Iran resolutions were adopted during these years by the IAEA and the UN Security Council. Following a deadlock in negotiations, unprecedented sanctions were imposed on Iran in 2012. In addition to the sanctions levied by the Security Council, several rounds of the so-called crippling sanctions were also imposed on the Islamic Republic by the US and the EU, which disrupted the country's economic activities and diminished the volume of oil exports. A number of Iranian nuclear scientists were killed between 2010 and 2012 with the aim of disrupting the nuclear program. They were shot dead or killed by magnetic bombs attached to their cars in foreign-linked assassinations. The election of Hassan Rouhani as the new Iranian president in 2013 opened a new chapter in the nuclear negotiations. With the aim of removing the security aspect of the nuclear case, Rouhani entrusted the Ministry of Foreign Affairs instead of the Supreme National Security Council with the nuclear negotiations. So Rouhani gave the case of nuclear issue to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, not the Security Council of Iran. In his first trip to New York to attend the 2013 annual meeting of the UN General Assembly, Rouhani announced his administration's new approach for negotiations and settlement of the nuclear crisis through constructive interaction and dialogue. During the visit, for the first time since the revolution, Iranian and US presidents talked over the phone in a historic move. The new team of Iranian negotiators commenced their work with a specific plan. Iran and the P5+1 countries, namely China, France, Russia, the UK, the US, plus Germany, continued the talks with many ups and downs and finally concluded the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, in 2015. After many years of negotiations. So it is called the Iran nuclear deal. Based on the agreement, Iran put some restrictions on its nuclear program in exchange for the lifting of nuclear-related sanctions. Moreover, following the adoption of a Security Council resolution, 6 previous UNSC resolutions against Iran were lifted. The IAEA was subsequently tasked with monitoring Iran's compliance with the terms of the agreement. And in many of its reports over the years, the agency confirmed Iran's compliance with the deal. Tehran has asserted that its nuclear program is aimed at peaceful purposes and that the Islamic Republic has no intention of developing nuclear weapons. Even leader of the Islamic Revolution issued a fatwa or religious decree saying that the acquisition, development, and the use of nuclear weapons violate Islamic principles and are forbidden. So, in the agency's reports, and also based on our leaders' fatwa or decree, we mentioned that we do not have any purpose to use, actually to produce nuclear weapons. Iran just uses it as a peaceful program. Iran's main negotiator, Mr. Javad Zarif, former foreign minister. Okay, I hope you are not very tired. I'm trying to move faster. Next slide is about Iran fighting Daesh or ISIS. Have you heard about Daesh terrorist group? Or ISIS? Anybody? Yes? Okay, good. Can you explain or say something about it? Where was it established, Daesh? Where it operated, you know? Okay, I will tell you. Daesh or ISIS terrorist group was the most infamous terrorist group in the last decade. It was initially formed in Iraq in 1999. It gradually gained power and in 2013 spread into Syria. Then the terrorists managed to capture large parts of Iraq and Syria and continued their campaign of terror in these countries. So if you have read or heard about the terrorist activities of this group, you know that they were doing lots of atrocities, especially in countries like Syria and Iraq. Iranian military advisors were called upon by the governments of Iraq and Syria to help them fight the terrorists. You know, at one time, they captured almost 1/3 of Iraq and Syria, large parts of these two countries. It is a suicide car bomb, okay, in the video. They are trying to explode it. It was one of the tactics used by this terrorist group. So as I told you, Iranian military advisors helped the governments of Syria and Iraq to fight the terrorists. Chief among them was General Qasem Soleimani, the commander of IRGC's Quds Force. He was number one enemy of the terrorist group, the person I'm talking about. After several years of heavy fighting and making many sacrifices, they succeeded in defeating Daesh in Syria and Iraq. Okay, let's turn to the next slide. During his presidential campaign, Donald Trump was a fierce critic of the Iran nuclear deal, describing it as a disaster and the worst deal ever negotiated. Insisting on his maximum pressure campaign against Tehran, he finally withdrew the US from the deal in 2018. In spite of European allies' disagreement. Iran showed to the world the peaceful nature of its nuclear program by signing the nuclear agreement with 6 world powers. But Washington's withdrawal and subsequent reimposition of unilateral sanctions left the deal in limbo. During the presidency of Joe Biden, the parties to the deal kicked off new rounds of negotiations with the intention of bringing the US back into the deal. The discussions, however, have been unsuccessful due to Washington's insistence on not lifting all anti-Iran sanctions and offering the necessary guarantees that it will not exit the agreement again. So, at present, all UN and EU sanctions against Iran have been lifted after the deal. Just unilateral US sanctions against the deal, against Iran are in place. And you know that these sanctions mostly affect ordinary people, unfortunately. In 2020, General Qasem Soleimani, the commander of IRGC's Quds Force, was killed by a US drone strike near the Baghdad International Airport in Iraq. The attack was ordered by Trump. Four other Iranian nationals and 5 Iraqis were killed alongside Soleimani. General Soleimani was a key player in the fight against Daesh, as I told you, in Syria and Iraq, and was considered number one enemy of the terrorist group. A few days later, and in response to the assassination, Iran launched over 12 ballistic missiles at the US military's Ain al-Assad air base in western Iraq. Iran's strike was the largest ballistic missile attack ever against Americans. This is General Soleimani's car. During the attack by Iran, according to U.S. Department of Defense, 110 service members diagnosed with traumatic brain injuries after the attack. Soleimani was a popular figure, even praised by some Western officials and media. Millions of people attended his funeral, and some say that it was the largest population after Imam Khomeini's funeral. Okay, Iran's current president, Mr. Raisi, won the 2021 election with 62% of the vote. He had previously served in several positions in Iran's judicial system, including the head of the judiciary. His foreign policy is focused on neighbors, Islamic, Asian, and like-minded countries. Look to the east is very important in his policies. Relation with Saudi Arabia was resumed after 7 years. Last year, an Iranian woman named Mahsa Amini fainted at the police station in September and died a few days later at the hospital. The issue was taken up at the highest level with all seriousness. The leader of the Islamic Revolution and the president immediately ordered investigations into the case. Iran's legal medicine organization reported that Amini's death was related to her underlying disease. She had undergone a brain surgery in childhood and used related medicine. But the Western mass media began a misinformation campaign against Iran, usual suspects, saying that she was killed by the police, even though the video footage didn't show this. Protests over the death of Mahsa Amini erupted in several cities and soon turned violent. Rioters attacked policemen and ordinary people, sometimes with firearms, and involved in vandalism against public properties. A number of common people and police officers were killed by terrorists and separatist groups. Such disturbances and riots are not acceptable anywhere in the world. People expected the security forces to preserve law and order, and for this reason, the police dealt with the rioters while trying to respect human rights. Okay, good news is that we are approaching the end of my lecture. Hope you are not too tired. It is about Iran's membership in Shanghai Cooperation Organization in July 2023. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization officially approved Iran's full membership in the world's largest regional organization in terms of geographic scope and population. The organization accounts for about 40% of the world's population and 25% of its GDP. The SCO, which has its headquarters in China, is a diplomatic organization with 9 members, namely Iran, Russia, India, Pakistan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. Okay, joining breaks, and I think that almost all of you understand Thai, yeah?
ประธานาธิบดีอิหร่านเดินทางไปยังแอฟริกาใต้เพื่อเข้าร่วมการประชุมสุดยอดในกลุ่มเพื่อนประเทศเศรษฐกิจเกิดใหม่หรือ Friends of BRICS สำนักข่าว IRIB ของอิหร่านรายงานนะคะว่าประธานาธิบดีอิบราฮิม ราอิซีของอิหร่านได้เดินทางไปยังแอฟริกาใต้เพื่อเข้าร่วมการประชุมสุดยอดสมาชิกในกลุ่มประเทศเศรษฐกิจเกิดใหม่โดยราอิซีกล่าวว่า BRICS นั้นเป็นประเทศสมาชิกกลุ่มเศรษฐกิจเกิดใหม่สามารถนำประเทศเอกราชมารวมตัวกันโดยมีเป้าหมายร่วมกันในการส่งเสริมความร่วมมือทางเศรษฐกิจและต่อต้านลัทธิที่ดำเนินการฝ่ายเดียวและอิหร่านจะเสนอโอกาสพิเศษสำหรับสมาชิกกลุ่ม BRICS ในด้านการค้าพลังงานและการขนส่งเนื่องจากอิหร่านมีที่ตั้งด้านการขนส่งที่เป็นเอกลักษณ์แหล่งพลังงานที่กว้างขวางและความเชี่ยวชาญในระดับสูงในด้านต่างๆได้แก่การผลิตภาคอุตสาหกรรมตลอดจนเทคโนโลยีนาโนและเทคโนโลยีทางการแพทย์และย้ำว่าอิหร่านมีความพร้อมในการร่วมมือโครงการเศรษฐกิจร่วมและการลงทุนกับกลุ่ม BRICS ราอิซียังกล่าวด้วยค่ะว่าอิหร่านสนับสนุนความพยายามของกลุ่ม BRICS ที่จะลดการพึ่งพาเงินดอลลาร์สหรัฐและใช้สกุลเงินของชาติสมาชิกตลอดจนใช้กลไกของกลุ่มในการชำระเงินและข้อตกลงทางการเงินถ้อยแถลงนี้มีขึ้นหลังชาติสมาชิกกลุ่ม BRICS ตกลงที่จะยอมรับอิหร่านอาร์เจนตินาอียิปต์เอธิโอเปียสหรัฐอาหรับเอมิเรตส์และซาอุดิอาระเบียเป็นสมาชิกใหม่โดยประธานาธิบดีแอฟริกาใต้ประกาศในการประชุมสุดยอดของกลุ่ม BRICS ที่นครโจฮันเนสเบิร์กว่าสมาชิก BRICS ในปัจจุบันได้เชิญ6ประเทศนี้เข้ามาเป็นสมาชิกใหม่ของกลุ่ม BRICS ตั้งแต่วันที่1 มกราคม 2567
Okay, as you heard, BRICS member states agreed to admit Iran and 5 other countries, Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia as new members. So it was initially included 5 countries and 6 others joined those 5. Okay, now let's talk about Iran's achievement in these years. The International Monetary Fund announced Iran's economy as number 22nd largest economy in the world in 2022. Iran is the biggest holder of oil and gas reserves in total. The country is among the top 10 countries in the world in such fields as nanotechnology, biotechnology, aerospace, satellite production and launch, stem cells, manufacturing, robosurgeons, nuclear science, steel and cement production, and tourist attractions. So Iran is an advanced country in some fields. It is an advanced country in fields including medicine and defense industries. In 2022, more than 1 million foreign patients traveled to Iran for treatment. Over 100,000 foreign students from 120 countries study in Iran. And I should say that we also welcome more Thai students in Iran and offer some scholarships to them. Iran is the biggest producer of such products as pistachio, saffron. 90% of saffron in the world is produced by Iran. Pomegranates, and it's also a big producer of carpets, caviar, dates. And the last slide about Iran's sites in UNESCO World Heritage Site. As you know, there is a list called UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Iran has 27 cases in this list. Let's watch.
دل پرو تپنده تو فدای حسرت و امیدم رهایی رمنده تو رهایی رمنده تو ایران گر دل تو را شکستم تو را به بند کینه بستم چه عاشقان بی‌نشانی که پای درد تو نشستم که پای درد تو نشستم ایران به خاک خسته تو سوگند به بغض خفته دماوند که شوق زنده ماندن من به شادی تو خورده پیوند به شادی تو خورده پیوند ایران اگر دل تو را شکستم تو را به بند کینه بستم چه عاشقان بی‌نشانی که پای درد تو نشستم که پای درد تو نشستم
Thank you so much for your time and attention. Kap kun kap. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Morteza Soltani, for the informative sections. We are very grateful for your time and the valuable knowledge that our students have received. We would like to request you to remain on stage for the Q&A section.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now have reached to the Q&A session in which our respected audience will actively engage with the political and cultural expert from the Embassy of Islamic Republic of Iran to Thailand to seek for better understanding and clarification as needed. Kindly raise your hands to be recognized.
So thank you so much. So I would like to ask about is revolution is necessary to change a society? So that's my question. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your good question. I can say it depends, yeah? It depends on many factors, including, for example, how corrupt the system is, how dissatisfied people are, you know? It's a difficult and complicated question. Sometimes, if there is a space for, change in a way that can satisfy people, maybe there is no need to have a revolution. But in some cases, for example, in Iran, the system was very corrupt. It was contrary to people's Islamic beliefs, As I mentioned in the earlier slides, the king didn't pay much attention to people's Islamic beliefs. So most of the people felt the necessity to have a revolution. They had a very brave and great leader, as the world has proved it, Imam Khomeini, and they followed him, and there was a revolution, Islamic revolution, that completely changed the country from dependence on the West to be an independent country, as you may have heard in the news. And I should also tell you that do not just rely on the Western media. We have many Eastern media, many reliable media in Iran that are in English, like Press TV, presstv.ir, Iranian English TV channel and news website. You can refer to it to gain, if you are willing, interested in gaining reliable first-hand knowledge about Iran. You can refer to this website, presstv.ir or irandaily.ir. You can send me an email if you like to have more information how to reach reliable first-hand sources on Iran. I'm completely at your disposal. Thank you.
So thank you very much, sir. My name is Mimyome U, and I'm from Myanmar.
Nice meeting you.
And again, thanks for your wonderful presentation. So I've seen some similarity with my country, Myanmar, like in ongoing war and conflicts. So my question is, your presentation did not like express much about the people. I mean, Iranians. So I want to know more about the lives of citizens, Iranians, after the revolution. And another question is, I also want to know how does Iran view the U.S. currently? Because Iranians and also the country did not like see the U.S. much positive back then. So how's the diplomatic situation with Iran and U.S. presently? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your question. Regarding the people, I can say that most of them, as I mentioned, most of them wanted to have this revolution, wanted this big change. They want their own country to be independent, not dependent on foreign countries, Westerners. There are some stories of Western ambassadors deciding for our Shah, our king, you know, very actually terrible thing. King of a country obeying the orders of Western ambassadors, so they decided to change the system completely. Culturally, Iranians are very peace-loving people, you know, and in the last few hundred years, we have not staged any war, you know. Iran just defended itself against other aggressors. Most importantly, in recent decades, Saddam Hussein, which was backed by, I can say, almost any country in the world. Iran was alone in the war, 1980, 1988, and almost any country in the world, including the West, the East, former Soviet Union, all of them actually didn't want the new Islamic Republic to grow. So they helped Iraq to overthrow Islamic Revolution in Iran, but they were not successful. If I can remember your question, you asked about the people of Iran. People are peace-loving. They don't want any kind of war with other countries. And our history has shown this. For Myanmar, I hope that people can decide and determine their own destiny. You know, one of my areas of work at the embassy is Myanmar and Laos. So I'm somehow familiar with the issue of Myanmar, the coup d'etat in 2021. I hope you can have a very good election which I think will be in 2025, as the news says, and people can determine their own fate. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. My name is Shui Zintin. I am a fourth-year student. I'm from Myanmar as well. Like this.
Okay, very good.
Yeah. So I would like to ask you just a little description about how is women's rights, women's conditions life in Iran, because as you mentioned, most of the time we just heard news from the Western media that's portrayed. So today I would like to listen from you how's women's rights and lives in Iran and from the Iranian perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question. And I know that those who, actually most of the people in the world who read mainstream Western media may have such questions, because the Westerners just turn to negative points about countries, especially countries like Iran, who want to be independent of the West, you know. When you are going to stand against them, they will do everything to actually bring you to your knees. And this is the case for Iran, which wants to be independent. People, especially women in Iran, have had very progressive life, especially in recent decades. Most of the university students in Iran are women, so they can easily follow their own studies up to actually high levels of education. Women in Iran are free to choose their own job. Even if they are willing, they can be like the West. They can be bus drivers, truck drivers, do everything they want. We have many faculty staff who are women, many actually physicians, nurses, any kind of work you can, many teachers, yeah? So women are in Iran have a lot of rights. We have many documents based on statistics that if you are willing, we can provide you with those documents, the statistics. For example, 65% of university students are women, you know. If you are willing to have these documents and statistics, exact statistics, you can contact me. I will send them all to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm Major General Binod Basne from Nepal, and I'm also a student in MA classes. I mean, Mr. Soltani, thank you so much for the elusive presentation. It provokes a lot of things. But one thing that struck me in international relations is great powers' interest in Iran did destabilize. I mean, it changed the political system. It, in fact, changed the governments. So there are a lot of interference, as you mentioned in the. And what was the role of the, let's say, the other power, the Soviet Union, from 1979 to 1990? Second is, you also highlighted on the Iranians' encouragement of being part of SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organizations, and BRICS. Now, how do you see China in the Middle East or the Persian Gulf? How do you see its role in the changing the security architecture of the Middle East, like putting Iran and Saudi Arabia together, and its strides and China's role in the coming decade? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your question. Regarding the role of former Soviet Union, the Eastern Bloc, as I told you before, after the revolution, actually both the West and the East tried to overthrow the government, the newly formed government of Iran, because they thought that it can damage their own interest in Iran, especially the US interest, which was the dominant power before the revolution. And during the war, both sides, the Soviet Union, US, European countries, almost all countries in the world, except for a few, helped the Iraqi dictator to attack Iran and supported him in the Security Council, in the battlefield, on the ground, try to actually defeat Iran because they didn't want this newly formed Islamic government, and they may consider it as a threat to their own interests. Regarding the role of China in the Middle East, as you know, China played a constructive role in the recently clinched deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia and resumption of ties between these two important Islamic big countries in West Asia, which are considered as the, I can say, most important regional powers in West Asia. So I think that China is playing a constructive role, and also, like any other country, China is pursuing its own interest, but as far as it doesn't want to damage the interests of other countries, as far as it is following its own interests alongside the interests of other players, I personally think that it can have a constructive presence in the region, and it can also somehow compensate for the absence of the US. Most of the countries in the region doesn't want the US to interfere in their own internal affairs. So if China can be present in the region, can help others, it can also benefit for actually its own interests. It can be mutual beneficial for the countries in the region and also for China. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your knowledge sharing, sir. My questions might be a little bit controversial. So in your previous answer, you mentioned about the life of Iranian women, and their life are pretty good. But my question is do you think this Islamic revolution make women's in Iran's life better? What about the life before the Islamic revolution? Can you please compare before and after situations of women in Iran after the Islamic revolution? Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. Many thanks for your question. I think it was somehow similar to one of previous questions about the lives of women in Iran before and after the revolution. Maybe the best ones who can answer this question are Iranian women, because I'm not a woman, so they can surely answer you better than me about the situation of lives. But I'm talking based on statistics, as I mentioned some of them, about the presence, the attendance of Iranian women at the universities, their presence at the parliament, their presence in different walks of life, different jobs. All of these statistics are improving, are growing, especially in comparison with the situation before the revolution. As I told you before, if you are interested in the exact statistics, you can send me an email, sultani.80@gmail.com, or contact our Facebook page. I can give you real statistics, comparison of the situations in different areas. We have had very large differences, very big differences between what is happening now and what was the situation before the revolution. So I can provide you with all these statistics, the situation of women, the infrastructures, presence of women at different jobs in the universities, in medical fields, all of them. At the parliament, yeah. And another issue is that I hope you can have this opportunity to travel to Iran, you know, to see it firsthand. Because you are now seeing through the lens of Western media. They choose what they want to show you. It is not reality, you know. If a few weeks ago, I was at Serena Karin Virut University. I had a lecture there, okay? One of the professors told me, I went to Tehran a few months ago, okay? How much it is different from what is seen here in Thailand. She went to Tehran, see it firsthand, so her ideas completely changed. I hope you can have this opportunity, or you can maybe actually see the real videos from Iran in order for you to think better, see the realities of Iran.
So from your presentation, we learned that the U.S. was an obstacle for the Islamic Revolution. And when he asked you how the diplomatic ties between U.S. and Iran today, you emphasized more on how they supported the monarch. So from an unbiased perspective, how are the diplomatic ties between the U.S. and Iran today?
Thank you for your question. You saw the seizure of U.S. embassy, and it causes why the Iranian students captured the university, because it interfered in Iran's internal affairs, and also U.S. embassy was responsible for 1953 coup in Iran. Several years before the revolution, they staged a coup in Iran, changed the democratic government of Iran, so they had a bad experience of the U.S. embassy. And even U.S. officials admitted, you know, U.S. foreign ministers admitted that they had a main role in 1953 coup in Iran. You can search it on the net. They themselves admitted their own role in the coup in Iran. They actually had subversive espionage activities in Iran, so the students called the embassy den of espionage, place for spying, den of espionage. And now in Iran it is called den of espionage, a former US embassy building, and we have an event every year for remembering this. About diplomatic ties between Iran and the US, nowadays we have an interest office in the US. We don't have formal diplomatic relations with the US, and it was Washington that cut the relations, not Iran, you know. Washington cut the diplomatic relations about more than 40 years ago. Now, Switzerland, government of Switzerland is responsible for exchanging letters between Iran and the US, the messages between Iran and the US. Okay, enough?
Ladies and gentlemen, due to the time constraints, we may have to end the Q&A session here.
Thank you so much for your participation in this Q&A sections. And Mr. Morteza Soltani, we are very grateful for your enlightening answer and explanations. We would like to request you once again to remain on the stage for the upcoming agendas.
Moving on to the next agenda. On behalf of all students here at Rangse University, a student will deliver an honorable thank you speech to the political and cultural experts of the Embassy of Islamic Republic of Iran to Thailand. Please welcome Ms. Konsen Puwe.
First and foremost, thank you so much, Your Excellency. On behalf of the International Relations and Development student, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude for sharing your valuable insights into Iran's socio-political development post the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Your wealth of knowledge has been instrumental in broadening our understanding of this pivotal period of Iranian history. Your expertise has not only enlightened us, but it has also left an unforgettable experience on our academic journey. As we move forward, we would like to humbly request you to consider our Rensselaer University for future collaborations. Your future and continuous support will definitely support us to further enrich our educational endeavors. Thank you so much again, Your Excellency.
Thank you so much for this profound thank you speech. To Mr. Morteza Soltani, thank you so much once again for your insightful academic section about Iran.
And we would like to request you to remain on the stage once again because Rensselaer University would like to present a token of appreciation. Therefore, representing Rensselaer University, I'm very honored to invite His Excellency Dr. Sompong Sangwampan.
Okay. Before that, I want to just add something. I would like to thank you all. Thank the university officials for inviting me. Thank you all the students and the staff for being present, listening to my speech. It was very nice being among you. As I said, I was formerly university lecturer in Iran, and it reminds me of my own teaching at Iranian universities. For cultural cooperation, you said the embassy is providing Thai media with Iran-related news items, so you can find real, honest news about Iran on Thai media, especially Channel 5. It broadcasts news on Iran if you are willing, and some other Thai media like TNA, MTN. You can access Iran-related news items on those Thai media and also on our Facebook page, Iran in TH. We hope that we can continue our cooperation with Thai universities, especially Rangsit. Kapun Kap.